Okay, the Godless Japanese. I know I'm going to get some flack for that title, but I couldn't resist it. So this is the first comments thread video on the YouTube bullet train, since I'm moving the comments thread over here from the Softy Papa channel. And this comment actually was an email that I received from, I think it's, I can't read my own writing, is it Jake Montrain? And the question was regarding the idea of God, and do Japanese people quarrel about God the way that people in the West tend to do? And you all know the precedent there, if you're from the West, where there's a couple of things that are off limits at a dinner party. Politics and religion are typically off limits because of the quarrels they cause. People get to talk about these issues, and hackles get raised, and words get said, and feelings get hurt. And so the question is, do Japanese people have these same conversations? And to answer that question, I have to first point out a significant difference in the way that religion is observed here in Japan compared to how it's observed in my own country, in the United States, and by extension to other Western countries, I think, that may have a similar attitude and frame of mind that we have in the United States. For example, in religion is the word to use is not important. It is important, but that's not the right word to use, because I don't want to give the impression that religion is not important here in Japan. Religion in Japan, let me take it this way. Religion in Japan is just part of life. It's one of the aspects of life that it's almost as routine and institutionalized as school and education and paying your taxes and driving down the street and being a part of a family member, getting married and being a husband or a father, and the role that's expected with that. In the same way, you get married and you go through activities in your life and you die, and these things are officiated by religious authorities according to the traditions of the country. These things are not really determined by an individual and an interest. Now, I'm generalizing, of course. There are lots of Japanese who have an individual interest in religion and have their own associations and beliefs. But for the most part, most Japanese don't give religion much thought. I think that's a safe thing to say. Religion is a part of their life as much as so many of the other institutions and activities of their life are. So in that capacity, they don't bring it up the same way that we would in the West. It's not something that is, they don't proselytize, they don't attempt to convert, they don't attempt to sway others with their religious beliefs for the most part, and as a result, it's not a point of contention. Most Japanese, this is another interesting point about the culture. It's a homogeneous culture, so most Japanese share the same traditions and the same background, and there's really no need to talk about religion in almost any setting at all. Sometimes I've heard people talking about I've heard people say, for example, "Oh, I know that fella. He's an observer of the XYZ faith of Buddhism or something." So they've made points out differences of the sects of Buddhism, for example, but never really talking about one religion versus another. Now, does that mean that there are people who are not from other religions in this country? I'm not saying this very well. Does that mean that there are not other major world religions not represented here? They are represented here. They tend to be a great minority. I happen to work at a Catholic school, and I can tell you that the Catholics and Christians are a distinct minority here in Japan. They are not necessarily, in present day, they are not necessarily ostracized or discriminated against, although I think that was more so in the case in the past. I can tell you that many of the cemeteries that I visited in Japan, I sometimes find Christian sections of the cemetery where you'll find Japanese-style headstones with a cross on it, and they seem to be segregated into their own area. So, getting back to the question then, do Japanese quarrel over religion? For the most part, no. And that's because they don't think about religion for the most part. It's just an accepted part of life. And for the second point is that they all mostly share a same common religion. So religion doesn't come up much. Does this mean that Japanese do not observe religion in their life? No, they certainly do, especially if you go back 1 or 2 generations, where every home will have usually some sort of a religious altar, or maybe 2 religious altars in the home, and maybe one outside the home as well. So, and activities. For example, my in-laws, every morning and every evening they do activities. They make little offerings to the kitchen god. They make one offering to the kitchen god, that's the Shinto faith, and then they make another offering at the family Butsudan to the spirits of the ancestors. So there we have actually two religious institutions being recognized and attended to in the same household. It's very common if you go back 1 or 2 generations. Young people don't tend to do that so much anymore. Although they may have an altar in their house or something like that, but they may not give it much thought. It's there much of the time. It's just there for show. So I hope I've answered your question. Religion is very different here in Japan than it is in the West, and it makes for an interesting topic of conversation among those who are observing it. I hope that you've enjoyed observing this, and I hope no one was offended by the title that I gave this particular video. I just couldn't resist it. They are certainly not godless. They are what they are, and Japanese people are Japanese, and God and religion have a very unique and distinct place in their lives there. Well, thanks a lot for listening, everybody, and I hope I've answered that question all right. Take care, everybody. Good night. Bye-bye. Or good day.